Hi, Scott. I just wanted to talk to you about what you are currently in the El Paso County Jail for. So, exactly what is this parole violation for?
The parole violation from the very start was simply due to the fact that I was in my second day of a 2-week stay at the stroke clinic here in El Paso, Texas.
Okay. And what exactly happened to cause this violation?
What had happened was on the 12th of, of August, I had already had a home visit from parole, but I had a eye appointment that I'd been waiting for since July on my original brain injury. I went into the eye appointment, and that eye doctor said, you need to immediately go to the emergency room or have an ambulance come pick you up. You have severe swelling of your, basically, stuff inside your brain. And so he wrote me out a letter. I immediately texted that letter to my parole officer that I had just seen at a home visit earlier, told her I was going into the hospital because I knew I had an appointment on the 14th to report in person to parole to the actual office. I then went straight to the same stroke clinic that I came from back in July and admitted myself, and they told me that not only did I have more brain damage, but I've had 2 strokes on top of the original brain damage. So I was there from the 12th to the 26th. They violated me despite her stating in the parole hearing that she knew and verified that I was in the hospital, and it violated me for not making my parole appointment on the 14th. So that would have been my second day into my emergency stay.
Wow.
And that's not including the fact that I had to have emergency heart surgery during that 2-week stay as well.
Wow. So a big part of the reason this is so serious is because you have some serious medical issues. And can you explain a little bit more what those are besides what you've already said?
Yeah, back in July, I knew something was wrong, so I went into the Army hospital, which is down the street from me on the military base, and they said that they had something they had never seen before because it was so rare, and basically I had 2 clots that are called CVST, or cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. And the Army hospital said it's too severe here, you need to have immediate brain surgery, so we're going to rotate you out of here into a civilian hospital. And I said, okay, and that's my first stint at Sierra back in July.
So what does that mean for people that are medically, like they're not?
CVST, basically what it is, it's a blockage, from what I understand, it's a blockage of your draining. Basically, my sinuses were not draining properly, so in the back of the head, it had gotten clogged up, and basically, it's a weird situation to have to go through, but basically it was causing severe brain damage because they say for every minute that you're dealing with these issues, you're losing like billions of brain cells.
Oh, wow.
And I was told that I could be dead, and had I had reported 3 days earlier, I would be dead because they wouldn't have caught it. So the 3 days previous, I was going through some severe sweating issues, even going through a cold shower, saturating my entire bed in sweat, massive headaches, constant puking, couldn't keep any water down, obviously stomach issues. And after 3 days, I finally called it quits. And since I'm a veteran, I just went down the street to the Army hospital because that's where I felt more comfortable going.
Well, that sounds really painful. And especially, with having those medical issues and being, in the El Paso County Jail right now, how do you feel your health is right now?
You know, it took me, when I first talked to the nurse practitioner, she called me a liar, which is very, very frustrating because, I knew too much to be called a liar. These medical terms and stuff, I don't normally just say medical terms unless I know what I'm talking about from experience. So Finally, luckily for me, a VA prison outreach justice or outreach, I don't know exactly what they're called, but basically a social worker from the VA for the prison outreach program came to visit me, asked if I would consent for my prescription medication list to be given to medical department, and I signed off on it, and she then dropped off my prescription list, so that made me a little more believable. But the problem with it is they decided to do whatever the heck they wanted instead of what was already known that I needed. I had already went through one blood thinner, which is called in a certain family of blood thinners. Once they found that that blood thinner didn't work and I continued to actually have strokes, I could no longer use that family of blood thinners because there was no studies to show that anything else would work if the Xarelto didn't work. So I had to start taking injections every day that are about $3,000 to $4,000, almost $4,000. And and I'm terrified of needles, so it's not really any fun still to this day.
Oh man, I can't imagine doing that daily.
Yeah, lifelong. So in the gut too, every single one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's leaving beautiful marks.
Oh man.
So they tried to give me something that I know for a fact that my blood doctor, the hematologist, said, you can't take anything but this. I've already done your DNA workup, blah, blah, blah. You take anything else, you might die. You have to take this. This is the best stuff on the market. You can't do any better than this. This is your only hope right here. So I had to take the bull by the horn and start learning how to give myself injections. So when I come here, they decided, no, we're going to switch your injections without even talking to you.
Well, and that's what they normally do, you know, in a prison or a county jail setting, is they'll choose something that's maybe not maybe. They choose the cheaper option, you know, whether it works as well or not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So once I refused basically to take the stuff that they offered, I then basically started reaching out to people that I could get a hold of online to let them know what's going on, including a mutual friend of you and I. And the other issue was not just the injection, but I'm taking a pill, and it's basically a diuretic.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Let me finish this real quick, and I'll call you right back. I'm taking a diuretic now, and it took me several months to get onto this diuretic because it took me several months to see an actual neuro-ophthalmologist, a guy that specializes on neurology and your eyes. Once he started giving me the medicine, it was like a miracle. But when you come to jail, it's a real challenge to continue that miracle. Let me call you back.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay. So, what is the current status of your parole violation as it stands today, which is December 4th of 2019?
The current status is I had a parole hearing here at the county jail at the annex on the 2nd, and I'm currently waiting for parole to vote on the interviewer's decision, and the interviewer decided to go ahead despite the fact of what he was aware of and violate me for not showing up for parole. So I don't know what.
And you had a hearing. You had a hearing 2 days ago, correct?
Yeah, that was on the 2nd. Yes.
Okay. So maybe you could tell us about that too.
I'm going to say the parole officer, my parole officer, was not necessarily honest or forthright, but she was to some degree. She admitted that she did in fact verify and knew that I was in the hospital. She also admitted that she knew and verified that I could not drive. She also had gotten the doctor prescription notes that I had sent her in regards to my health, although she left out several key sentences in those notes, like there is no timetable for his recovery, don't know if he'll make a full recovery, he may never make a full recovery, and he cannot drive. All she basically said I sent her was, I cannot drive. So she left out some key things.
Wow, yeah, I would say so.
Purposely to make it seem like just because I was out of the hospital that I was ready to run a 1 mile, marathon or something. And I think she very intentionally did that to make it look like just because he's out of the hospital, he can come anywhere. But yet she admitted she knew that I couldn't drive. So here I am. I can't drive because Sierra Hospital never addressed any of my vision issues, which were a case of larger issues behind the scenes because they didn't have any eye doctors there, both trips, times that I was there. So here I am. I have zero depth perception. I lost all my depth perception. I lost my vision. I was constantly falling. Anytime I sat up, I might fall over. I might fall down at anything. I can't see the distance between the curb and the street and the ground and the crack. So I twisted my ankle several times because I can't see the difference because I have no depth perception. I'm on heavy narcotics of wide variations from the brain swelling and the papilledema and edema, all these things, and she thinks that I should
so
just
it's
be
kind of
out and
unrealistic to expect you to drive, in my opinion, right?
Drive or even walk to a bus stop. That would be a very
Right.
unsafe and dangerous situation for me. And there
For
were
sure.
other health conditions that I don't really want to get into that were very personal that were going on that I had no control over.
Right.
And so it was just like, if I would have been put on, a hospice, she would have automatically thought I was eligible to go to parole. And that's just not the correct way to think.
Well, that just seems very unrealistic to me.
And she also mentioned, I've never had anybody that's had medical issues. And I'm thinking, wow, it's kind of hard to believe, but okay, but that's not my issue.
Right. That should not affect you. You have obviously enough on your plate trying to schedule these appointments with the specialists and whatnot and, taking care of your health.
And part of the issue, too, is it's not necessarily easy because I was scheduling all my appointments outside of the Veterans Affairs because the Sierra Hospital had already thought that they were responsible for me almost dying, so I decided to get most of my health care outside of the VA for the first time ever in my life. And we're talking about over 20 years of dealing with the VA. That these things take time. It takes time to get referrals, consults, switch them over to Tri-West. It takes time for them to get the information. It takes time for the VA to process, to give it to Tri-West, and then it takes time for Tri-West to find the specialist, and then it takes time to actually get an appointment with the specialist, whether it's a hematologist, a neurologist, ophthalmologist, a neuro-ophthalmologist. So it takes time for all these things. These things don't happen overnight. Sometimes it could take a couple weeks.
No, definitely not. I know from my own experience trying to get an appointment with, different kinds of specialists. You have to wait. Sometimes it can take, over a month or so, depending on, where you live. There may not be that many specialists that can do that, and, affordability and different things like that.
Yeah, there's one neuro-ophthalmologist that I've been told.
Wow.
There's only one neuro-ophthalmologist in El Paso. And anytime I go into that office, this guy has at least 50 to 60 people in there, and you're going to be in there from 3 to 5 hours.
Right.
And I have to go in there constantly because he's the only professional in this area. So now I've got the problem with I'm supposed to have brain surgery. I had an appointment on the 8th, the day I was arrested at the neuro-ophthalmologist. I was supposed to have brain surgery to fix additional issues. And it took me forever to get to this point, but he wanted to see the progression of how I was doing on the medicine and see if that would take care of the issue. And once he found out over basically a 3-month period that with all the tests that I had to do for all these machines that he has that I've never even knew existed, he said, okay, it's clear that you're not improving to the degree you need to improve. I can see that for a fact. I can compare. I can see you need to have emergency surgery. to help drain these fluids to stop the swelling in your brain, basically, or in your eyeballs or something. I don't know everything he was talking about. But here I am, and this place refuses to acknowledge anything. So, you know, there is some concern about everything right now. So.
Right. I mean, what is the part that is really frustrating about this? I mean, obviously, I mean, there's a certain degree of frustration that comes along with being in county jail. I mean, being incarcerated at all. But, you know, you're used to being able to look something up on a computer or, you know, call somebody, or, you know, I can imagine that that's frustrating. And, you know, along with the you know, trying to get the medical care that you need is not being able to get a hold of anybody, and to know that this was all a mistake has to be very frustrating as well. But I mean, what is more frustrating to you?
Well, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. The most frustrating part is just trying to get the help that I need, whether it's for medical or it's for someone to speak out on my behalf that I shouldn't be here in the first place. If I didn't have my VA check, free money, there was no way I'd be able to reach out and get a hold of anybody, number one.
That's definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's cost me an arm and a leg.
Huge.
It cost me like $70 to $100 a day just to make simple phone calls, because I you know, it depends if it's long distance or not. But really, the most frustrating thing. Yeah, GTL is quite lovely.
Started.
Yeah, I know. So the most frustrating thing to anybody that's locked up is those that are innocent that are locked up, those that know that they shouldn't be where they're at, being combined with people that probably may or may not should be here, or maybe are wrongly accused themselves. But either way, there's no worse feeling in the world to be falsely accused, and basically this is punishment. This isn't temporary confinement. This is punishment for an act that I never should be punished for. That is beyond frustrating.
Right. I mean, and do you feel like the people at the jail, I mean, when you informed them of their issues, you said you talked to the nurse. I mean, do you feel like once they kind of realized that this might be something serious, do you feel like that did anything, or no?
I think once the prescription list, it kind of, from the VA was dropped off, it made things move toward a different direction. But we're talking about something that took me over 2 weeks to get a medication that if I did not have, I could die at any minute, number one. Number two is even the medicine for the eyes to keep me from swelling and losing my vision and passing out almost anything. Passing out from doing almost anything, falling over, hitting the concrete. I hit the concrete floor a few times already since I've been here. You go to medical, they say, "Oh, you're okay," and send you back.
Well, do you? I mean, how do you feel about the way that you've been treated so far by the staff, and I mean, you know, just the general atmosphere, or people responding to, you know, people?
Well, medical or guards?
I don't know. I guess either. I mean, do you feel? I mean, I know I've been in jail before, and I know like some places are like shittier than others. So
the guards, I kept asking and I kept writing grievances about medical, and I've been here for almost a month, and these are serious grievances about serious medical issues.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything back ever.
Wow.
Not one. Not that they even received the grievances. Most of the time, you at least get a receipt saying we received it,
right?
So you knew that they had it. But I haven't heard a word back, and these were serious allegations that you guys could kill me. So I haven't heard anything back on that. And also, asking the guard for a supervisor, at least at this facility, I have learned that it is next to impossible, and I've never seen one person ever be able to get a hold of a supervisor here, period. So that's a concern. Now, when I went into medical, the nurse practitioner, she immediately called me a liar about my medical issues and started questioning my truthfulness, which is very, very upsetting. But, you know, luckily, once you actually get these nurses sometimes out of their element from that zone that they work in and into the pod area, and if you're nice to them, they actually, some of those nurses actually have hearts, and they're going to say, hey, let me see what I can do for you. But when they're in the element back there at their desk, it's almost like they know they're being watched by a superior, and they don't want to act like they care at all. Now, I will give credit for one thing here, and I don't want to give too much credit because of the situation I'm in, but I do want to be honest. When I finally seen a real doctor, he was very kind. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name. He was very kind, very caring, and he actually set my medicine for the eye drainage issues from my brain. He actually gave me the right dosage once I told him, hey, look at the VA prescription. This is what I'm supposed to have. I'm supposed to have an extended release, not a release at all in 2 hours, and the rest of the day I'm screwed.
He sounds really nice, but at the same, I'm sure I'm so glad that he was nice, and I don't want to take away from that.
Yeah.
It's just, at the same time, I just think, how horrible it is to be, for us to be grateful that he did that, but I
agree.
It's true, and we are grateful because obviously that's, doesn't happen a lot. So we obviously are grateful. I just wish that were not something we had to be grateful for, I guess.
No, I totally agree with you on that. He did get the dosage right, but I mean, that took over 2 weeks to do, so very frustrating again. And he reiterated something I already knew. He said, you need to get an attorney to get you out of here as soon as possible and have brain surgery. You need this as soon as possible. And I said, well, I'm doing what I can,
God,
and here I am.
It's just so hard. God, I wish there were just, we need more attorneys. It's so hard. We have, we have the activists and we have, the advocates and it's just so hard. We need more attorneys.
I think part of the issue, too, is, of course it's hard, but what's even harder is the state doesn't supply the people that we need to be able to reach out to that actually have compassionate, empathetic ears.
Like you said, you're lucky that, you were able to have a little bit of money to be able to put onto the phone account and reach people, because a lot of times people, they're not able to call anybody. And that's a huge part of the problem. How are you going to get any kind of help when you, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you start feeling hopeless and you give up all hope and you just say, I'm just going to sign anything because I just want to get this over with.
Even having a public defender, even having people that are assigned, that's not helpful. You need to be able to do your own research and call and, I don't know, I don't feel like people have enough of a fair shot, like you're saying, but...
the state spends unlimited resources to bend over backwards to make sure they get a conviction, whether it's a correct conviction or not, but gives no money almost to any type of advocacy or making sure that they, that you're getting your rights treated correctly and that
and for somebody with, that many severe medical issues to be in there for almost a month, that's just shameful to me. I just don't, especially when they've already admitted it was a mistake. What are you doing? Why is this taking so long? Are you just, do you have a lot of papers on your desk today? Can you not put some of that aside so maybe somebody doesn't die today? Would that sound like a good idea to you? To me, it's just,
they need to have somebody like a hospital, so even the VA has a patient advocate. They need to have an advocate for certain situations, maybe an advocate for health care and inmates, maybe an advocate for, hey, this guy keeps complaining that he's wrongfully locked up. If he has obvious...
Yeah, they need to have 2 or 3. I like that. They need to have 2 or 3 people in there that can just talk and just see what's going on. Do you need me to call your mom? Do you need me to call your job and let them know? Because maybe the boss is cool. My husband, we hire a lot of people that, have felonies and stuff. We're pretty open to whatever. And, as long as you tell us what's going on, we're not going to fire, or whatever. If you need a job when you get out, whatever type of thing. So maybe you just need to tell somebody that they need to call your boss and let them know, hey, I'm going to be sitting out this ticket for 3 weeks, or I don't know what's going to happen, but, I don't know, just little things like that. They're so big to people's lives.
the innocent people that may be in my shoes that were here because they were in the hospital and they just lost everything. I'm going to get out, and I don't know if I'm going to be homeless or not. I don't know. You know, like...
Yeah, because when you're in there, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I mean, who are you going to call? And, like, how are you supposed to fill out any paperwork or do anything? And if you're not able to, like, move, what if you get evicted and everybody... Like, it's just... Like, there's no...
It's like a vicious cycle of negativity.
Right, because then what happens? Then what are you going to do? Then it's like, well, where are you going to go when you get out? We can't let you out unless you have a plan. Bitch, I had a plan. Everything was fine until, like, you wrongly incarcerated me.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the past year trying to rebuild my life, and even parole had said that I was satisfactory and low risk and no issues. And then now I'm facing possibly homelessness. I'm facing losing my car that I financed. I'm facing being late on my credit cards. I mean, this has put a terrible dent in everything. So, you know, I have people always say stay positive, but this is just the hardest time in the world to try to stay positive.
Well, I'm sure because you already went through something really difficult, and then to come out of something like so light, like just gut-wrenchingly, like life-changingly major like that, to come out of all that and still be like, you know what, I'm still going to, like, whatever, we're going to fucking move on. And then to do that and then to have this BS happen for absolutely no reason, I mean, it's demoralizing.
Every night, I try not to take a nap during the day just so that I'll go to sleep earlier at night, but no matter what, I end up staying up many hours past everybody else.
You have to read a lot of books.
Well, I mean, it's pitch black. They actually turn off all the lights in the cells, and it's pitch black.
Shit.
And so I just lay there, and all I can do, because I'm already a brainstorming type of individual, I'm always trying to figure out how to fix problems and how to resolve issues, that now I sit there in my bunk for hours on end wondering, what could I have done different? How can I get out of this? What if I go back to prison over this? What if? And that's all I can do. It's just, you know, and then up early in the morning so I don't stay up all night thinking.
I mean, I don't know how you can be like, oh, how could I have not gone to the hospital? How could I have done that differently? But I mean, like, I totally get it.
There's also things like, you know, should I stay in Texas? And then where do I go? It's so affordable here where I'm at. My VA check's not all that big, so, I mean, I got to think about affordability and finances and, you know, should I stay here? Is it worth the risk? There's so many other variables going on that it's just constantly, you're racking your brains like, what's the best move? Do I need to leave this state because of what I'm already going through? Once again, I know I shouldn't be here. What do I do next? If I even get out, you know, without going to prison. If I go to prison, then, you know, it'd be the same thing. What do I do, you know? So...
Yeah, that's why you really need to give it some serious thought. Those are some, like...
Oh, yeah, and at least for me, and I know a lot of people don't have the same fortunate side, but I had been blessed because I was underneath the assumption that probation was going to be so much harder than parole. When I sent probation the prescription note from the doctor, probation said, hey, that's good enough here. You don't worry about nothing here. You're good to go. I sent it to the local office, the supervisor. They said, hey, don't come in here. You're a liability. Don't worry about a thing. You're good to go. Just follow the laws. And I'm like, well, I haven't had any issues, so they left me alone. Everything's been fine. It's just somehow parole decided that despite the courts in Waco and everybody else being okay, that parole decided out of their own whatever reasoning that they weren't okay with the same thing. So it's kind of bureaucracy. Like, how does one agency who works in the same building as the judge in the court say everything is good to go for probation? The local probation says everything's good to go, but then parole is saying, we don't agree with them. We're going to put you in jail. I don't understand that.